Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being present. Happy Women's Day to all the ladies in the audience. And it is a pleasure and an honor being here at Google. It was always on the 25th of December that my late father, Rolando, used to recite the exact same story year in and year out to my elder brother, Giovanni, and myself. It wasn't one of his own stories. It didn't stem from his own experiences, but it was a story that was relayed to him by a former mentor of his, Dr. Rossi, when my father used to work at the Cyprus Embassy in London. The story was about a former Undersecretary of Defense, and that former Undersecretary of Defense was invited for the second year running at the same conference. As he took up the podium, he was holding a styrofoam cup with coffee in his hand, and before he started speaking, he went off script, took a sip, smiled, turned, looked at the audience and said, "I want to talk to you about this styrofoam cup. Last year, I was the Undersecretary of Defense. I flew here business class. A limousine was waiting for me at the airport to drive me to my hotel. They already checked me in. The next day, there was another limousine waiting to bring me to this venue. They escorted me to the green room, and the green room is the room where all speakers meet and prepare before they take the stage. And when I asked for something to drink, they brought me coffee in a ceramic cup. This year, I'm no longer the Undersecretary of Defense. I flew economy class. I took a taxi from the airport all the way to my hotel. I checked myself in, and it took 15 minutes. The next day, I took another taxi to come to this venue. And because I couldn't remember where the green room was, I asked them to escort me, and they gave me mere directions how to get there. Then I asked for something to drink, and they showed me the vending machine, and they said, "Take a styrofoam cup and serve yourself whatever you like." He turns, looks at the audience and says, "We all deserve a styrofoam cup. The ceramic cup was never meant for us. It was meant for the position that I was holding at the time. So as you gain fame, as you gain fortune, positions, or possessions, people will open up doors for you. They will refer to you as sir and madam. They will bring gifts. And when you ask for something to drink, they will bring your coffee or your tea in a ceramic cup. But because time doesn't stand still, we all deserve a styrofoam cup." And as the former Undersecretary of Defense found out the hard way, we too should be alerted to the fact and to the possibility that we might not be our current position or our possessions. Who we really are, as today's title suggests, which is Finding Your Inner Compass, is that internal compass when you strip away positions or possessions that will guide you through challenging and difficult moments in business and in life. Today, my dear friends, I will relay 5 personal stories, and each story carries a valuable lesson. That's the lessons that power my internal compass and help me navigate through the professional and the personal world. I hope that by the end of this speech, these same stories and the underlying messages from these stories will help power your internal compass and help you navigate better in your life, so they make the road more smooth in order to reach for that elusive word which is called success. 3 disclaimers to make. Each and every lesson starts with the letter H, as you will see from each story. Second disclaimer, there are no PowerPoints. Unlike 95% of my keynote speaking, there are no PowerPoints, because I do not believe that a slide can depict internal compasses and values, as well as a vivid story which carries an underlying message. And disclaimer number 3, the third story, which happened 13 years ago in 2006, I've never, ever before said this story in front of a professional audience. I only once mentioned this story, and that was on the 9th of October, 2018, as I was lecturing at University College London in front of 300 students. So let's begin, and let me take you back to 1997. That was the year that I completed my studies in the United Kingdom. I've done my BA and my master's degree, and like any good Cypriot boy who has a flourishing business, I went back to the island, back to Cyprus to work for the family business. All newcomers at our family business, which was called Virardi, is still called Virardi. We deal with catering equipment and tabletop supplies for the HoReCa industry. The HoReCa industry is hotels, restaurants, and catering institutions. Had to go through an induction course, and that induction course started from my late father's office. And I too had to go through the same procedure. That was what I called my PhD degree. Only it didn't last 5 years, it lasted 5 minutes. My father gave me 2 valuable pieces of advice. For the first piece of advice, my father took a pencil and he took a sharpener and he said, Michael, I've sharpened your edge. I paid, you were lucky enough, and I paid for your tuition. But if you leave a pencil standing on its own, it will fall. Go out there, son, and find the hand that will keep you standing. The hand that will keep you standing was an analogy for the mentors in my life, for the trusted advisors, the likes of your former colleague, Michalis Solomondos, who's escorting me here, all the mistakes that I've done in my life, and all the failures that I've encountered. Because as the saying goes, when you lose, don't lose the lesson. And I owe a very big thank you to all the people who turned me down and all those who believed in me to hire me. And as I was making my way out of my father's office, he gave me the second piece of advice. He said, son, I see something in you. My feeling is that you will do well in life 10, 15 years down the road. And when you do well, when you gain positions and possessions, if for any reason you think that there is one person that you don't need them because you either outgrown them or you're in a better position, that's the day. And as an inexperienced professional, young professional, I rushed to fill in the sentence. And I said, that's the day that I made it, Dad? He said, no, that's the day that you lost it all, son. So the first H in our first story, my dear friends, is H for being humble. Understanding that as you rise up the hierarchy ladder, as you taste success, always remain humble. Because we are not our current successes, we are not our trophies, we are not our positions or our possessions. Which leads me to the second story that happened in 1998. I was 1 year into the family business, and lo and behold, the company that my dad told me to take care of, which was Carlisle Food Service Products. It's the tumblers where you have your juice here at Google, Carlisle Food Service Products. We won the first European award. So the Americans told us to fly all the way to Charlotte together with my brother, all expenses paid, to get our award. And we were lucky because there were 7 days of celebrations. And on the last day, Jeffrey Gitomer, one of the best sales consultants in the United States, came to speak to us. For all those who know me, I cannot stand still for 10 minutes. I stayed riveted on my chair for 6 consecutive hours. As soon as Jeffrey Gitomer finished his talk, I ran up to him and I said, "Mr. Gitomer, congratulations. How can I become like you, sir?" And he turned, looked at me and said, "It's easy and it's difficult." And as a Cypriot, I said, "What's easy?" He said, "Study on your chosen topic, whichever topic that is, for 2 hours every day, except weekends. In 5 years, you will be recognized in your country. In 10 years, worldwide." I said, "Sir, I'll start today." I bought his books. At the time, he had only 2 books, The Sales Bible and Customer Satisfaction is Worthless. Customer Loyalty is Priceless. I even bought his cassettes, not DVDs, not CDs, not USBs, but cassettes. And I was listening to Jeffrey Gitomer's cassettes in my car, which was sales messages coming out, driving from one town of Cyprus to the next, promoting Carlisle Food Service products and all the other products that we had at Virati. And I was weeping in my car, listening to the messages. And I have a feeling that people looking from the outside thought that I was going to a funeral. I still remember my favorite tape, my favorite cassette. It was 101.5 Rules for Success. Let me tell you my favorite rule for success. It was the 101.5. You are given a bucket of water and a bucket of cement. You can either build a stepping stone towards success or a stumbling block. The choice is yours. And he was right. Even the great author Malcolm Gladwell, in his book Outliers, he said the exact same thing. He popularized the notion that wasn't his, but it was the 10,000 hours. Malcolm Gladwell said that if you want to achieve something, you need to put those 10,000 hours in. Even the Beatles were unknown for 7 consecutive years as they played music in what was Eastern Germany at the time. And it was after they hit that mark, the 10,000 hour mark, that people started to recognize them. Even great criminals, as it says in the book, need 10,000 hours to perfect their craft. So, my dear friends, the second H is H for hard work. I know you work at a technology company, and I know that intelligent work is also important. But hard work takes precedence over intelligent work. I guess what I'm saying to you is sacrifice something today so you can gain something better tomorrow. 2006, as a good Cypriot boy who was working at the family business, getting a bit older. By the way, I am 46 even though I look 45, just for your information. It was time to get married. 700,000 inhabitants on the island of Cyprus. We invited 4,000 to the wedding. That was almost 1%. So what did I do? I had to think for a while, and then I called everything off. My mother was crying. My late grandmother was hysterical. What will happen to the family name? What will happen to our image? What will happen to your image? What will happen to my life? I told them. The only person who hasn't spoken, like always, and waited, was my dad. So he comes up to me and he says, "Michael, let's go to the front veranda." The front veranda in my parents' home was where the bad news were delivered. The back veranda was where the good news were delivered. So I go to the front veranda. He puts his hand on my shoulders and he says, "Son, you have guts." Actually, the word he used wasn't guts. But for this speech at Google, it's guts. When I die, he continued on, I'm very happy, and I will die peacefully knowing that I can leave the company to your brother Giovanni, who has the wisdom and the patience, and also to you, son, who has guts. So, my dear friends, the third H is H for honesty. And I'm not talking about honesty from the other person, because you cannot control that. It's being honest with yourselves, to take the hard decisions, even if it pains you, at the time that you are taking those decisions. And we move on to the fourth story. 1 year after not proceeding with the wedding, 2007, now I had to find the guts to go tell my dad that I wanted to leave the company and pursue what you see me now doing, giving keynotes, training, development, and consulting. I go up to my dad, I explain what I wanted to do. He says, son, let's go to the front veranda. We go to the front veranda. He said, Michael, you can go your way. I'm sure you will succeed. But if you leave, Virardi will close down. He bought himself 1,100 days. I stayed at the family business for another 3 years. And when the time passed, I went back. My father was a true gentleman. He said, son, you will do very well, but I would like to give you some advice. Go your own way, but I would like to give you some advice. This is where the fourth H comes in. Always be helpful. Deliver value first, or deliver value without expecting anything in return. And he gave me 2 pieces of advice that I will never forget. The first piece of advice was that when you meet prospects and they ask you to give quotations, never merely write a quotation. Write a self-help book. Give them so much value that they can see their vision. Give them so much material and value so they can bring it to life. If they decide to come with you, your price will seem minute. If they opt to go with your competitors, at least you have built a stepping stone towards their success. And my father was right, and I still do it up until today. Even recently, when a company from New York contacted me to do a culture enhancement project, which involved strengthening the team, and it had a 360-degree evaluation, which means that those managers were evaluated by the top management, by their peers, by their subordinates, and by customers. I didn't just write a quotation. I even sent a 5-page PDF with all the questions, everything that I was intending to ask. And if I don't get the job, I still know that I added value to that company. And if I do get the job, they can come back and alter some questions, change some, and even give me some feedback. What my father was telling me is be a trusted advisor, not a salesperson. And I guess what I'm telling you is transform your thinking from what can I get from you to how can I serve you. And the second piece of advice he gave me that day was that, Michael, you will never be the smartest person in the room. And my dad had foresight. Even though he died 19 months ago, he never knew I was coming to Google. So this guy had foresight. And it's true, my dear friends. Even if you are 1 in a million, in a 7 billion population, there are another 7,000 people exactly like you. Why should they hire you? Recently, I was at Singularity University. I took a course there, and they have the same philosophy. They were telling us that engineers, the brightest minds, scientists, were trying to fold protein 3-dimensionally, and they were trying for 15 years non-stop, and they never managed it. They opened up, they open sourced it, and in 10 days only, a wife from the Midwest folded protein. So the experts are the non-experts. The experts sometimes are outside your organization. And it is not a coincidence that in the book of how Google works, it says on page 175, default to open. So if you cannot be the smartest person in the room, you can be something else. In my case, I opted to be the promptest. And I have a rule. If you go onto my website, you will see that I reply back to my messages with the rule 777. I reply back in 7 seconds. If I'm not doing anything, I reply immediately. In 7 minutes, if I'm doing something, I want to finish it and then reply. Or in 7 hours, which is the duration of a workshop. I finish the workshop and then I reply back. I'm not telling you to do that within this framework, but expand it if you like to 14, 14, 14, or 21 seconds, 21 minutes, or 10 to 1 hours. But refrain from staying at the 24-hour rule, which was invented when there were telephones plugged on the wall and not smart devices, and when they were, at that time, people were more backward. So my dear friends, the fourth H is to be helpful, which leads us to the fifth and final H. And for this story, I need to take you to 9/11/2011. That was the day that I married the woman of my dreams, the lady that puts a smile on a daily face, on a daily day on my face, and that's Christine. And on the 28th of January 2013, she delivered the greatest present in our lives, and that's our 6-year-old Rolando, who wanted to accompany me on this trip to meet the people behind his favorite platform, and that is YouTube, because thanks to you, he meticulously observes Cristiano Ronaldo's soccer moves on a hourly basis. So when we were going to get married with Christine, Christine went to her grandfather, who passed away recently, who was married to his childhood sweetheart for 68 years. And she asked for advice for a happy marriage. And her grandfather was very happy to give that advice. I don't know, maybe he was worried that I would walk away from this wedding as well. And he said to her, Christine, do you know what's the secret to a happy and a long-term wedding? And Christine said, what's the secret, grandfather? He said, give 100% to your spouse and expect 0 in return. If your husband-to-be gives 100% and expects 0 in return, then you increase your chances of having a happy wedding. Think about it, my friends. It also applies to all the other H's. Give 100% to your marriage or to your relationships and expect 0 in return. Give 100% to hard work and intelligence work. Be 100% honest, first and foremost, with yourselves. Even if it pains you at the time you take the decision, take it. If you're wrong, admit it and apologize. Be 100% helpful by offering value to others first. And be 100% humble. Not because you will need someone further down the line in your career, but because it is the right thing to do. So if you're wondering by now, what's the fifth H? The fifth H is H for heart. Open your heart and pour your heart in everything and anything that you do. Because it's only in this way that you can move away from positions and possessions and you move closer to your true north. And by true north, I mean that internal compass that is helping you to navigate through life. After all, my dear friends, it is that compass that represents who you are as human beings at your deepest level. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for being here today with us. personally, the talk talked to my heart, and I think you represented a few of the values we have in the company, like put the user first, be humble, take risks. So it's nice remembering again and again. I have a few questions.
Okay. Ask one then.
My first question is about mentors. Do you want to tell us who were your few of your mentors along the way? And my question is, how do you find mentors? Is it something that comes in your life, or you seek for them?
Okay, excellent question. I had many mentors, and mentors do not have age. If I'm going to be giving a speech on technology, I rush to find younger people, older people. It depends, the people who are well versed. My father was my first ever mentor. I had mentors from my university days, my college professors. I even meet people on the road, which I keep in touch always. But you cannot find a mentor if you're not ready to receive a mentor in your life and to receive advice. And I hope I have answered your question this way.
Definitely. And can I ask, it seems like the father role model in your life, it really played an important role. Have you kept, I don't know, his wisdom in one sentence maybe, or something you want to share with us about this? It seems like a very precious relationship.
It was a very precious relationship. My father died on the 22nd of August, 2017. And the time that he died, he was wearing his Virarti t-shirt, which said, "Customer service first." So my father always believed that you should serve your customer. And that customer is also the internal customer. And the way you treat your internal customers is the way that your internal customers will serve your external customers. So at the end of the day, my father wasn't focused on the price of the products. He wasn't focused so much on the quality, even though he believed in quality. That's why we imported a lot of German things. But he believed in people, and he believed in helping people. Give first, and then you will receive.
So also from my side, thank you very much for this inspiring speech. In your second story, you were talking about the advice you got to practice 2 hours of a certain topic to become very good at it. And you immediately said, okay, I'm going to start today. I know exactly what this topic is. Now in my situation, I'm 30 years old now, or 29 actually.
Like me, 46, 45.
Exactly. I don't know yet which is the precise topic that I want to focus on that drives me for the next 15 years. And I also believe that this is kind of a generational thing. So what advice would you give to us to find this topic where you have your passion and the topic that follows you and that basically drives you the next 10 to 15 years?
I was 20, that's a great question, by the way. I was 29 years old when I found my passion, when I saw Jeffrey Gitomer on stage. I was mesmerized. I went up to him and I asked him. Before that, I was working for the family business. And even though I was enjoying it very much, I felt it like you're feeling it now. That it might be this or something else. What I will say to you is, whatever you're doing now, give it your best. As Muhammad Ali once said, if you're sweeping the floors, sweep it to the best of your abilities. Give it your best because somebody is watching. My late father always told me to keep a note for everyone I meet. What did I like, what I didn't like? Because even, I'm not saying about your manager, but even if your manager doesn't appreciate what you do, which is not the case, but I'm just saying it. So why are you laughing, guys? Somebody else is watching. And whilst you're doing what you're doing to the best of your abilities, an opportunity will knock the door. So be conscientious, do what you do, continue being knowledgeable, put in those hours in what you're doing now, but you have to be honest with yourselves. If this doesn't inspire you, you need to take the painful decision and do something else. And I'm not only talking about relationships.
I wanted to ask, you mentioned that you had kind of understood 3 years before you left the company that you wanted to change career paths. So how did you find the courage to actually leave after 3 years and just go off and do your own thing?
If dead scared means that I had the courage, yes, then I believed I was preparing myself for 10 years to find the courage to go and do what I'm doing. And from the day that I decided to go on my own, I had to believe in myself first and foremost. I took my father's advice on board, and I was adamant, even though, and I will tell you, when I went for my first gig, and they asked me, Michael, how much do you charge for a speech? At that time, it was 1,500 Cyprus pounds. And the guy said, excuse me, 1,500 pounds for a 1-hour speech? Do you know how much your competitors are charging? And he told me 2 names which had 30 years of experience, and they were charging 500 pounds. Why should I pay you 1,500 pounds? And I said, and you don't even have experience. And I said, sir, I was preparing for 10 years, and if you don't like it, I will give you your money back. And he threw me out of the office. But next year, somebody else believed in me. I kept the 1,500 ceiling, and they gave me a chance. It went on to YouTube, which is owned, I think you know which company, by Google. And thanks to Google, I commanded my pricing. And thanks to their performance on stage, because my father told me, if you're going on your own, son, don't put your prices low. Because if you're very good at what you do, it will never go up high. Or it will take 10 years to go up here. Put your prices high. Deliver more value than expected. You'll get a lot of rejections, but you'll get a chance eventually. And if you're wondering where will you find the money, you can do 2 jobs until you find the money to go for your dream.
So you're talking about really believing in yourself and continuing on as well, training yourself and learning and educating yourself and then going for it.
Yes, but I'm a little bit against The Secret and its philosophy that think about it and it will come. Work and it will come. Put in those hours and it will come. And always keep your bridges open. My late father used to tell me, always send a Christmas card. At that time they were sending Christmas cards, but always send a Christmas card. Always connect with the people that you meet on the road. Because your network will determine your net worth at the end of the day, not only your abilities.
And I have one more question, if that's okay. You spoke about the true north of yourself, so if you do not mind speaking to us about that a bit more.
I will speak about my true north. Beyond possessions, beyond positions, I agree with my father that you need to be humble, because what else is there to be? And I find my true north when I hug my son or when I'm with my wife. And I think what powers everything is the word trust. If you trust people who are in your life, you have less tension and more trust to go forward and do what you need to do. You even have allies within your company, within your relationship, inside your flat or inside your house. You need allies because no man or woman is an island. You cannot do it alone.
Sorry, I have one more question. How do we learn and navigate around failures?
I also said before that when you lose, don't lose the lesson. A failure is a chance to understand. For me, when I used to work at the Virardi family business, I always asked, where did you find us? For you guys, you know where did they find you. It's called Google AdWords and the rest. But I used to ask, and when I fail at something, what is failure? If you stand up, you're still standing. You need to ask what went wrong, contemplate, think, look at your offer again, talk to people, even to the people who consider you, in inverted commas, a failure. So the best way is asking. Like the Greek contingency is placing the questions, more questions. Questions are very important. You judge a man or a woman or a person by the quality of their questions, not by the quality of their answers. That's how you deal with failure, with lots of questions.
Thank you very much for the speech. I was focusing on the part, your rule of the 7-7-7 and also the 10,000 hours that you put in. I I mean, you were working full time for the family business. On top of that, you put in 10,000 hours, and now you're traveling around the world giving speeches, and you still reply by like 777. How do you do that?
You can test it tonight if you like, yes? I fly Emirates. There is Wi-Fi connection if I'm going transatlantic. Yes, I do it because if you're prompt, people attribute more things to you, that you are reliable, that you are dependable, that you are the one they should work with. And it's also a differentiator on its own. Marilyn asked me, how do you deal with failures? I also should turn the question on its head. How do you deal with success? I ask, why did the American P&I, why did Microsoft hire me? I ask them. And you know what's the answer I get most of the times? It's not because you are the best. Because I said earlier, if you are 1 in a million, in a 7 billion population, there are another 7,000 people like you, which they're very good and they might have a lower price. 90% told me because you're prompt, Michael, because you are reliable, because we were in a hurry to set it up and I knew I could count on you. There are other things, of course. You shouldn't stand up here and talk about theories that you don't believe in. You shouldn't talk about other people's stories, except if that's an example that you want to aim for, to be truthful and the rest. So I do it because it's also in my favor, because most people won't do it. Imagine if somebody walks into your house and you don't greet them because you're busy. It's impolite. Somebody's walking into your electronic house and they're knocking the door.
Thank you very much for the speech, Mr.
My pleasure.
How would you define success?
Excellent question. That's why I use the word elusive for success. It cannot be defined and it cannot be so broad to include all of us. Success is a different thing for every different person. If you ask me what success is Christine and Rolando. Success for me is to live by the values that my father instilled in me and my mother, of course. Success is to wake up in the morning and be happy doing what you're doing, love what you're doing. And if you're not happy with it, I'm not saying quit, but find a way to be happy doing it. And be honest enough if you are not. If it's after 6 years, it really pains you, find the strength to move on. That's success. Because some people tell me, Michael, you are a freelancer. Sometimes you might not work as hard. No, I work hard to see a vision and to go after that vision with no guarantees. So for me, that was success. For you, it might be something else, but it's elusive. As they say in theater, you are as good as your last performance. And in my job, you are as good as your last speech or training session.
I want to talk a little bit about your public speaking career and acknowledge that about half the people in the Google Dublin office don't have English as their first language. So it's a challenge to speak, but even more so when English is not your first language. So can you tell us a little bit about how you ramped up your communication skills? How do you practice? What are your tips?
Excellent. Very good, because we are also addressing this on the online program that is coming out. There was once a great football player by the name of Milenko Spoljaric. He used to play for my team in Cyprus, Apollon. Milenko was a very talented player, extremely talented. He never played in Europe. He never played in the big league because he was very slow. And he gave me a piece of advice. If you're a slow player, pass the ball faster. The ball travels much faster than if you dribble. So if you are not a native speaker, it's not the fancy words. Keep it short, keep it simple, and practice, 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 practice. Perfect practice makes perfect, so try it again and keep it simple. Even with my mentees, when they come for coaching sessions one-on-one, even if their native language is English, I always tell them, keep it short, keep it simple. They gave me 45 minutes, 1 hour to speak. I spoke 30 minutes. You shouldn't be keeping it too long. If the people get the gist of what you want to say, it's not the fancy words. And think about it. Which is your favorite politician? My feeling is not someone who uses language that you cannot resonate with or understand, but it's someone who speaks to your heart. Keep it short, keep it simple, and practice. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure and an honor.